Four paths in computer science to choose over the next 4 years to get an actionable outcome like a job or a startup. These all come from my experience of placing 40 people in the last 6 months in an offline batch and a few people in our online batch. I'm very honestly going to tell about the niches, what are the interview processes, what were the companies, how can you apply, even if I'm not there to refer. What kind of skills are they looking for? What are the jargon buzzwords that you need to know before you start applying into one of these four paths? Let's get right into it. The four paths are HFT, DeFi, and Web3. So this I've sort of combined together because a lot of Web3 is DeFi and a lot of DeFi is finance and a lot of finance is what is done in HFTs. So I've combined this into one. This is one niche that you can go into. Not a lot of things will be similar, but काफी चीजें दोनों में मतलब काफी similar रहती हैं. And that is why I've kept this as the first niche. Second niche is LLM Parser, basically any AI company that you can think of right now. Go to YC's current list of companies in the 2025 batch. 95% of the companies over there. Full stack, these are standard companies. Other than FANG, like this is not big tech, mostly a bunch of startups. And DevOps and distributed computing. These are the four niches where people have been placed by us in the last 4 months. Here is a quick high level of the bunch of companies that people have gotten into. You can read about them. I would urge you to not spam them. Just, read about them. What are they doing? What is their hiring process, their careers page? Do not spam them. Do not start messaging founders over here. I think they're pretty full now. But other companies, similar niches you can find. In the last 6 months, around 40 people have been placed in these companies. DevOps is relatively empty because there's this one person who got placed himself in a pure DevOps company. That means nothing related to full stack. A bunch of people are doing full stack and DevOps, but pure DevOps, we only had one conversion this time. That too also, he did it himself. Other than that, mostly as you can see, full stack companies, a lot of them India-based startups, a lot of them US-based startups. HFT, DeFi, and Web3. Honestly, this is mostly Web3 and DeFi. There isn't much of HFT here, if at all. And LLMs may, again, these are names. Just Google the companies, you'll understand कि क्या करती हैं ये. But mota mota, quick SaaS is trying to build some e-commerce on top of AI or using AI. Finder is building a second brain, very common application that we've built in Cohort 3 as well. कौन सी I forgot, but some digital marketing plus AI. I think I could be wrong. So high level, this is where we've been able to place people in the last 6 months. This is what I'm expecting in the next 1 year. So in the next 1 year, I have multiple offline batches. One is a 4-year degree, one is a smaller Super 30. My guess right now is in char categories, people will be placed the most. This is because I have a network here, specifically in Web3. HFTs and DeFi is a very high level goal, or a stretch goal for me right now to get HFT companies on campus. I'll talk more about it aage jaake. But if I am able to sort of do that, then we become, a comparable college to a big one. Hence, I've written HFT here. We haven't yet gotten any placement, at least through us, into an HFT. DeFi and Web3 we have. LLM parsing agents, I feel like there'll be more demand here, more founders here, a lot of consolidation, a lot of startups will fail also. But in the end, I think in the next 1 year, there will be demand here. Full stack, there'll always be demand here. It's a lot of ugly work, but it's a lot of stable work as well. By which I mean कि वो company का बहुत बड़ा code base है जो बन गया है. You go over there, you start to maintain their code base, get comfortable with the code base. You are very AI proof because this is not a new company. This is a company that's been going for 3-4 years. They have a code base which no human can understand, let alone AI. And hence they're more stable. They don't pay as much as an HFT, but it'll be a good, stable job, switch careers one to the other. That kind of company sort of resides here. I'm sure there'll be more. I've not put here, there wasn't enough space. But yes, there'll probably be most companies here in the future as well. I think full stack is where most of the hiring happens. In fact, a lot of companies here, people are also working in full stack only. And lastly, DevOps. I feel like I could get 2 companies here, big ones. I could, take a chunk of people. I could be wrong. But I have, few companies in mind. जो pure DevOps के through hire करती हैं, which I think in the next 1 year I want to get on campus. Cool. Disclaimer. A lot of these people got in for free also, even though they got a referral from me. They just posted on Twitter, or they were part of a cohort. It's not necessary you have to buy anything. If you're good, you have proof of work, just tag me on Twitter, I'll take a look. If you're really good, मतलब बस ये देख लेना, ठीक है? A good example here is, this is a company, I'm not naming them, but यहाँ पे Joydeep got in from cohort 2, Pulkit got in from cohort 3. He did also get let go because of whatever reasons, but he did get in once. I think after a month and a half he was let go. And Samrit, who's 18 years old, who also got in through the Nepali gang, which basically means a bunch of people I know, is not part of any cohort. He will most probably be part of the school, but he's not part of a cohort until now. So this company sent me a message yesterday, which I have no one to refer right now. Super 30, most people have been placed. No one that is left in Super 30 has front-end expertise. Read through the job description. It's nothing too crazy. It's like simple React, Next.js. So it's just very hard for me to find these people. even when I'm running offline batches, I'm trying to find people in the next super 30 now for, referring over here. So long story short, there are jobs. Of course, there aren't infinite jobs, but it's just hard for me to find people and companies to find talent and you guys to probably get jobs. So mota mota, the goal of the video is कि आप जल्दी से समझ जाओ कि पढ़ना क्या है. Here's another company where Rishabh, who has 2 years of experience, got in. He got in from 40 LPA. OPM, who just literally replied on a random tweet of mine. His tweet was pretty up there when it comes to the likes. I looked at it, was really good connected. Yesterday he messaged me कि उसका भी full time convert हो गया for $2,000 a month. He had a trial of a month. Yesterday he converted full time. So high level, he's also coming to the next super 30. So one thing that happens is कि जो बच्चा free में I place, I do ask them to come to super 30. Sometimes they apply, sometimes don't. But मोटा मोटा मेरी उतनी ही expectation रहेगी कि you come to super 30. You don't have to pay anything, just for the community if you get referred through us for free. ठीक है? That's a high level. Let's get into the first niche. As I said, there are 4 niches: HFTs, AI, HFTs, DeFi, Web3, AI, full stack, and the fourth one was distributed computing and DevOps. So we'll talk about the first one now. This niche has 2 types of companies, usually that make money, that have real businesses. There are a lot of businesses in Web3 that have raised, but let's say we don't optimize for them. We optimize for companies that have revenue and proven business model. So there will be 2 types of companies: market makers or exchanges. This is more HFT. Web3 has more companies, but HFT and DeFi's most probably you'll find these 2 types of companies: people either market making or people being an exchange. I hope you guys understand what market making is. If you've heard of very big packages from Jane Street and Citadel at IIT Bombay, कि 4 crore का package मिला. I hope you've researched a little bit कि ये करती क्या है companies. But if you don't know, long story short, they do what's called market making, which basically means it stocks ही trade करती हैं. But they don't do it like you and I do. They don't buy a Tata stock because they saw news. That's some part of it. But mota mota they do what's called algorithmic trading, which means there's no human sitting there and taking trades. A lot of algorithms are running in some server that's very close to NSE or very close to NYSE, New York Stock Exchange. उसके बहुत पास एक सर्वर है जो ऑटोमेटिकली ट्रेड कर रहा है इनके बिहाफ पे. दे आर रनिंग एल्गोरिथम्स टू फिगर आउट कि अभी बेस्ट प्राइस क्या है एक स्पेसिफिक स्टॉक का, मान लो गूगल स्टॉक, एंड वेयर टू बाय, वेयर टू सेल, लिटिल बिट lesser they want to buy for, little bit more they want to sell for. That's a high level of what they do. I have a few friends now in Citadel, 𝗟𝗶𝗹𝗀𝗀, Goldman I myself worked at, and D-Shaw. I did have an offer but never went there. These 2 are big ones in India. Even Tower Research, I don't see it here. But these are, by big ones, I mean they will come on campus. That is not true for a Graviton. That's true for a Graviton and 𝗟𝗶𝗹𝗀 as well. That's not true for a Jane Street or a Citadel. Very low probability that they will ever hit, any campus other than IIT Bombay or IIT Delhi. So maybe optimize for the other ones. Optimize for the ones that have campuses in India, offices in India. And these 4 definitely are, one of those. D-Shaw has, I think, 1 office in Gurgaon, 1 in Hyderabad. Goldman has 1 very big office in Bangalore. 𝗟𝗶𝗹𝗀𝗀, I think Bangalore, Graviton, I think Gurgaon again. So a lot of these are in Gurgaon, which is closer to our campus as well. Again, no promises here. These are all stretch goals for me people to reach market makers. And the second type is, so before that, let's get into what is asked in their interviews. This is based on my Goldman interview, my Tower Research interview, my D-Shaw interview, and a bunch of, talking to people who are currently working here. For example, passive friend of a friend got into Citadel or one of these. I think Citadel only, or Jane Street, one of these 2. तो हिज इंटरव्यू हैपेंड इन हांगकॉन्ग. तो उससे पूछा मैंने क्या क्या पूछा था, उन दोनों को मिला के दिस इज वट एवर आई कुड अंडरस्टैंड. कॉम्पिटिटिव प्रोग्रामिंग तो अज्यूम विल बी आस्क्ड एटलीस्ट इन 1 round or 2. A bunch of maths and puzzles. There are standard books that you can go through. I forgot the name. There's a 50 puzzle book that people do before joining Goldman or interviewing for Goldman, and उस 50 puzzles में से ही पूछा जाता है. C and Rust and maybe even 𝗟𝗏𝗃 based on what company you are applying to. So if you are applying to most companies, they will write code in C, or you will be writing code in C over there. So they'll ask you, how do you make C code faster, memory management, core अंदर जाके how can you optimize for speed more and more. Some companies probably a very small amount to it in Rust, and then 𝗟𝗏𝗃 is what Jane Street would probably ask you questions for. I don't know, but that's the language that they use for trading. General memory management is something they would ask. A bunch of finance lingo. I'll dive deeper into this very soon. An operating system and Linux specific concepts. How low can you go and optimize the speed of placing a trade or doing anything on a machine. Cool. That's a high level of what is asked in an interview for a, I wouldn't call, I guess most of these are market makers, so I guess they rightfully lie in this category. They do a bunch of other things, but primarily they're doing a lot of market making and making money, squeezing out as much efficiency they can from the market. जिसका मतलब समझ आता है ना कि मतलब people are, retail is very dumb in placing orders, तो ये लोग बीच बीच में जाके उनके प्राइस थोड़े कम पे खरीद लेते हैं, उनको इमीडिएटली बेच देते हैं, बीच में प्रॉफिट कर लेते हैं. सो दैट्स हाउ मार्केट मेकर्स वर्क. Exchanges are the complete opposite. Exchange is something like Binance or New York Stock Exchange or NSE or BSE in India, or the Backpack Exchange, or if you've heard of Bybit, so on and so forth. There are many. There are two types of exchanges. There are centralized exchanges, which is ऊपर जो है. There are decentralized exchanges, which are these. Very big difference in what they do. Very big difference in what kind of expertise you need to join one. But if you're joining the first one, which is this category, I know this more because I've worked here. Is again Rust or C expertise. Backpack is in Rust, and if you go through their careers page, you'll see a bunch of Rust openings. Binance, I am not sure, and NSC, I'm sure you can ask someone because they do hire from India colleges. Finance lingo again, it is sort of expected that basics of general finance. How do you place orders? I have a list right after this slide. I'll show you the standard things that you should know before you're interviewing. How does the blockchain works? This is a standard interview question that I would ask. Implement deposits and withdrawals on Ethereum on Solana. Specifically true for these centralized exchanges. General security concerns, especially in crypto. I guess not even in non-crypto stock exchanges like NSE, but especially in crypto exchanges, because people can just pull out crypto from the centralized exchange. Security is of paramount importance. You can be slow, but you can't be insecure. So I'm sure there'll be a bunch of questions here. And general concurrency distributed system computing, because you can't really run everything on a single server. You sort of have to in a few cases. A bunch of these actually run on a single server on a single thread. But there are ways to make it better, which is all experimental and research stuff that they might ask you about. So that should be a high level of what is mostly asked in CFI companies, centralized finance companies. I think DeFi it would be different. It would be a little more around indexing the blockchain, specifically if you're applying for something like Jupiter. I have an interview with Jupiter folks on my other channel. You should go through it. They talk through their infrastructure and how much of their stuff is centralized, how much of their stuff is decentralized. So again, a great niche to go to. मैं बहुत deep बात कर रहा हूँ. I'm talking about the best of the best companies and how do you get there. If you aim for them, there's a high probability कि जब तुम्हारा interview हो रहा है for 8 LPA, उनको लग रहा है wow, this is such a smart guy. So that is why I'm optimizing for this. Not saying you will get a job over here. I'm saying if you understand how they are building things, if you're optimizing for a job over here, a lower job is much easier to grab, because वहाँ पे the expectations aren't as high and they'll be super impressed with whatever you've done. Cool. Here is some jargon. Just read about it. ChatGPT, YouTube videos, whatever you want to go through. Very basic finance jargon that you should know. Futures, options, market makers, order books, liquidity spread, perps, limit orders, market orders, stop loss, take profit, candles, K lines, FIC, WebSocket, serialization, decerialization of JSON, validators, RPC, liquidation bots, and how to optimize an order book latency. I've written a few things. I'm not explaining them one by one. Read about it. Just ask ChatGPT. It'll explain you. This is probably a subset of things you should know in finance before you're applying to these companies. Along with some puzzles, probability math is something they might ask. Cool. I think that covers HFTs. Super 30 interviews, as I said, did not happen in HFTs. Mostly happened in DeFi companies. Over there, a lot of Solana jargon was asked. What is Solana jargon? Again, I'll throw a few terms at you and try to read about them. PDAs, data model on Solana, different types of accounts, how to index the Solana blockchain, writing your own indexer, which is something one person wrote as soon as they joined one of these companies. That was their first trial period task, so on and so forth. Writing contracts on Solana, honestly haven't seen anyone ask this. Even though this is the most difficult bit on Solana, most companies don't need contracts. If they do, they outsource. Hence, I don't know if this is a super efficient skill for you to have. Good at distributed computing or mobile dev. So again, this is true for Super 30. This is probably not true for all companies, but हमारे यहाँ पे a few companies that hired had great Web3 expertise, decent full stack people, no one who knew DevOps, or no one who knew distributed computing, or no one who knew mobile app or mobile dev. So a lot of times these companies, if you are elegant at one of these, they will hire you and pay you much more, because Web3 mein thoda whatever, you can squeeze more margins, they have more money. PPP is not a thing in purchasing power parity is not a thing in Web3 companies. That is why if you're really good at one niche, which is unrelated to Web3, pure Web2 stuff, or if you understand Solana docs पढ़ लो, मतलब they have enough knowledge for you to grasp and answer interview questions in Solana, because a lot of times even founders are not as savvy when it comes to Solana. वो पढ़ के ही कर रहे होते हैं. So you can do something similar, unless you're applying for a company जहाँ पे the person who's interviewing has written some Solana core code. Then a lot of them are learning, you are learning as well. तो साथ साथ में हो जाता है. Cool. That covers the very first section, HFTs. I've spent the most time here because this is where I feel would be good to have offers in the next 1 year. Why? Because very AI proof. You can't really throw an AI to do finance. Very high offers. very intense. I can show you a message right now. Let me see if I can quickly find it. But a friend, as I said, who interviewed at one of these companies, so I asked him, can you tell me what was asked and things like these. तो उसका message आया कि भाई मत करो, the work hours are crazy. So his message literally was, let me read through it. Stress अलग, peer pressure का, because everyone's expecting you're making so much money, haha. But basically, grass is always greener. If you do get into an HFT that's paying you 25 lakh rupees a month, even as an intern from very big college, you're not satisfied. Cool. Moving on. LLMs, parsers and agents. I'm sure you guys at least have heard of these. Understand कुछ तो चल रहा है LLMs में, AIs में. Just ChatGPT and building a bunch of things on top of it has become a thing now. And a business like Cursor, a business like Lovable, a business like Bolt, Windsurf are all built on top of GPT. They're actually fairly simple full stack problems, and some indexing problems or data problems कि पूरे code base को index करके कहीं डालना, and talking to the LLM, and then a bunch of GUI is all that is needed to build a Cursor or a whatever, a Lovable. Of course, there are internal challenges, but mota high level, those are the technologies that I used. So there were a few companies here, and mostly founders were figuring things out. These were rich people who finally felt like there's a gold rush, so let's try to make some gold. So they weren't too tech savvy. They were using Cursor to code a lot. They were expecting you to use Cursor as well, which honestly hasn't been working well from what I've asked these people. Because वही code base has become sort of ginormous, hard to understand, mostly written by AI. A lot of times the founder changes something, और ये लोग बैठ के साफ कर होते हैं जो फाउंडर ने लिखा होता है. तो मोटा I'm sure there are better companies, but at least for Super 30, great companies, superb founders, but a lot of pressure to quickly build, because they only have a limited time to bring these products out, and there's a clock that's running. Everyone is trying to build products in AI, and hence there's some extra pressure you can expect if you're getting into one of these companies. In the next 1 year, there will be a consolidation, market will plateau, so it'll get better, but right now it's high pressure. Interviews usually around LLMs, APIs, libraries, agent libraries के ना तुमने कितना पढ़ रखा है? How much do you understand things being built on top of ChatGPT, not just the LLM, but how can you use the LLM to do 100 different things? What is an agent? What is model context protocol, MCP, the new thing right now? Whenever a new thing comes, all founders will jump to it. Happens in Solana as well, happens in AI as well. So just being aware of these terms, maybe using them or building them would be nice. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Python is something that's, I would say, almost required, because just assume that a AI company would want to keep their code base in Python, be it full stack code base, be it even some level of DevOps code base, but definitely the AI parts, they would expect you to know Python's end to end very well. Cool. Interview happened like this. So mostly interviews for these companies were full stack. There were heavy trial periods, so एक हफ्ते 2 हफ्ते के होते थे, and they would tell them कि ये feature करना है, and use as much AI as you want. People were able to do it. So that's how they got in. Again, the downside there is that the code is very weird now. They're moving very slow at the moment. But founders, you get right. A lot of very what's the right word? Very thrashy founders for now. Okay, भाई जल्दी करना है, let's go to market as quickly as possible. I've left a few links of things that are good for you to read. Probably should have left some blog posts, but you understand there's this Versal AI SDK. I think it's written in TypeScript only, that you can use. They keep it very up to date. If there is something new that comes in the market, then they add a JavaScript SDK or a TypeScript SDK for it. So if you read through it, if you use it, it's a good thing to know. Composio, which is a company, I think that's helping you build MPCs. So I think it's MCP, not MPC, by the way, but you get the idea. Model context protocol, which is it's just again something fancy. I'm unsure on this, but I think Anthropic introduced it. It's just a way for LLMs to talk to Google Drive or WhatsApp, and hence I've left a link to a MCP server as well. This one I saw a few days ago. I saw it recently. Before the video, it's become fairly popular. It lets you basically talk to your WhatsApp through ChatGPT, which is an amazing use case, because I want to know before the video. Right now, I had to ask WhatsApp, go through WhatsApp and find the person. I should just be able to ask, hey, give me the message about HFTs that I did 5 days ago. So let's do something like this. So read through the third project. Probably the most actionable thing you can get out of here is blog posts that you should read and videos that you should read. But I would urge you to just go through this project. And generally be aware in this market. ऐसा कुछ specific नहीं है भाई, मतलब I think honestly जो लोग गए हैं इतना भी उनको कुछ नहीं आता था AI में. They were good at full stack, and little in the trial period they were able to perform well, and then it was a easy in. बाकी सब वो पढ़ के ही सीख रहे हैं अभी. Cool. Lastly, full stack. Don't want to spend too much time here. I've talked about this too many times. So the cohort syllabus that's present on blog.100xsteps.com is more than enough would be an understatement कि बहुत है भाई वहाँ वो पूरा का पूरा अगर आप कर लेते हो if you're able to do everything over there, maybe even DevOps का part, at least the first few bits how to deploy your application, you are sorted. उसके बाद please build a lot of projects, create a Notion doc, and tag me if you think you're ready, but make sure it's extraordinary when it comes to the Notion doc or the projects that you're building. Projects should be deployed, they should have custom domains, should be open source on GitHub, and make sure the UI is a little clean. I think that's what differentiates people from a lot of crowd के भाई दुनिया भर के resumes आ गए ठीक है. Interviews, I'm talking about the extra things which aren't really present here. We don't teach them, but were asked to a few people. Kafka internals, I wouldn't say Postgres internals, like very basic normalization stuff that we also cover in the cohort. But I'm sure most people skip it because it feels like theoretical. But they were asked. System design and never DSA. I would say never DSA was asked in any of the full stack companies that we have referred people in. It was very what they need to do as soon as they need to join the company. वो आता है कि नहीं. Cool. DevOps. This syllabus is good, although I'm getting it reviewed from someone who currently works at a DevOps company at a 150K offer. Just to make sure इसमें बचा क्या है वो बताएं. This is what I know for sure. We haven't covered Kubernetes operators, Golang, CRDs. We'll probably introduce a few of this in the cohort, but they're not present in this syllabus section. To go through the syllabus plus a bunch of these topics. That's, I think you're sorted there when it comes to the initial interview, like a fresher interview, maybe not a senior engineer interview, but a fresher interview more than enough. A lot of companies in Pune, Hyderabad. So the one person in Super 30 that I told got into a pure DevOps company, I think he got into Pune. New Relic, and I think they have a new office in Hyderabad now. Some friend of friend got in there. Some remote companies are hiring. So Signos, if you've heard of it, we do have a Super 30 video where we're setting this up. Let's see if I can release it on YouTube. A few people tried here. No one got in from Super 30, but one guy got 2 interviews. Second round, he got rejected. Then he got into a different company. But Signos is one that's hiring. I saw their LinkedIn post yesterday. They're hiring for front-end engineers. And interview usually assignment-based. So not necessarily. Like if you're doing a front-end interview at Signos, probably not assignment-based, or assignment-based but not DevOps assignment. But for general pure DevOps companies, it's a live coding round where they give you a sandbox and there is some problem in the sandbox. You have to figure out what the problem is and fix it. For example, there's a Docker file that, you don't know what the bug is, so try to debug it yourself. You can Google, you can't use an LLM. To mota mota ye hai. The other thing was a bunch of Kubernetes. So the second level of the interview in one of these companies was they give you a bunch of manifests, maybe a deployment, service, an ingress, basically a bunch of manifest files of Kubernetes. And there's a very small bug there in one line that you need to somehow figure out yourself without Googling a little bit. It's basically you need to have some muscle memory of the syntax of Kubernetes manifests. अगर तुम्हें manifest खुद से लिखी हैं 10 बार तो you'll be fine. Nothing too crazy, but very basic manifests that very basic APIs like a deployment or a pod or a replica set, something like that. ये दो राउंड मुझे पता है. इसके आगे मतलब and it felt very simple honestly for a 150K job. Felt like fairly simple stuff. If you're able to do both of these, at least in one company, I know you're sorted. ठीक है. That's a high level. I'll add more syllabus to this. Maybe you'll see something in the description linked which has this syllabus plus this and a bunch of other APIs in like 2 days or so. All right. What gives? अंत में लग किसकी रही है हकीरत? I also know everything. तो why am I not getting a job? And long story short, bhai, this is some level of IQ because it's very easy for everyone to learn one stack. It's very hard to learn it in a way from first principles. कि अगर interview आ गया तो you're able to answer questions. Adding finesse to projects is very hard. Like building it for the first time is very easy. You'll do it in 2 days. Then finessing is another 15 days. Just making sure it's production worthy. It's all up all the time. It looks pretty, so on and so forth. So people are not really looking to do that effort, which is something we sort of force people to do in Super 30. A good example here is someone who's 19, he's really good. Usko, I tried to refer him. They said we'll pass on him because this felt too much for a 18-year-old. But I just told them to try kar lo. He's actually one of the best over here. जो मेरे referrals है उनमें से. So they said, if you feel strongly, we'll talk to him. And then they did talk to him and they made him an offer. And they said, I've interviewed 20 plus Python candidates, mostly in the US, and he was the best by a mile. And he finally made even more than what I quoted for him. So long story short, if you are really smart, then it's a little bit of luck. If I did not reply over here, if I missed the message, then this wouldn't have happened. Thankfully, I was up and message. So referrals and luck does help. But again, if you have IQ, you'll do well. anyways, and by IQ I mean मतलब कि थोड़ा CS आपको समझ आती है खुद से from first principles, and of course you're putting in the putting in the work, and अपने जो भी दिन के 8 घंटे 9 घंटे पढ़ रहे हो for a year, and you'll be sorted after that. समझ आ गया? Cool है. That was a high level. Let me know if you want me to dive deeper into any one of these. I'm personally very excited to learn about this and this in the next 1 year. So spending more time in distributed computing and DevOps, and ये थोड़ा stretch goal ही है, as I said, but it would be good if 2 companies or 2 HFTs people are able to get into at an obnoxious offer. Then we'd be able to compete with bigger colleges. But it's a stretch goal. We'll see if we reach there or not. With that, we will end it. I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.